Welcome back. Let's cover inheritance. So what is inheritance? It's when you write some code, and then you write some more code, and the second code is so similar to the first code that you say, I don't want to rewrite all this code again. This sucks. Hey Java, can you please help me out and do some of this sucky work for me? Here's an example. So on the left, you have a user. It has a username and an email. And then later on, you add a premium user. A premium user also has a username, also has an email, but in addition has a credit card number. Notice, username and email are the same between the two, and we don't want to duplicate all of our getters and setters and the constructor and the toString method, all of the code that goes with it. So why don't we want to duplicate? Well, there's this concept in programming called dry, which means do not repeat yourself. Now be cautious. This doesn't mean you should never ever repeat yourself. This is not the word of God. This is just a general rule. If you can design a system where you repeat yourself less, it might be better. So premium user has everything a user has, but a little bit more. So you don't want to repeat that part of your code. And here's why that might be an issue. If your code changes in the future from username to user ID, you're going to have to remember to update multiple places. You're going to have dozens to hundreds of references to that field, and that sucks, and it can lead to errors. So here's Java's solution. On the left, you have your user, just like before, username and email. But on the right, you have premium user. And notice, it extends user. That's Java's keyword for inheritance. That's saying, go to user, get all of the functionality, all of the fields, and apply it to premium user. And then you can see we only have to worry about the new code for credit card for the premium user. This is called inheritance, and inheritance is one of the principles of object-oriented programming. It basically tells Java, give this class all of the behavior of another class automatically. So let's see it in action. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new class called user. I'm then going to create another class called premium user. And IntelliJ lets you view these classes side by side. So I'm going to take premium user, I'm going to click and drag. And now I can see both of them at the same time. For user, it's going to have a private string username, a private string email. I'm then going to do all of the standard things. So right click, I'm going to generate my constructor. I want it to be an all arguments constructor. I'm then going to generate getter and setter. I'm going to select all of them. And then I'm going to generate my toString method. Okay, so now our user class is complete. Let's work on the premium user. The way inheritance works in Java is I can go ahead and extends the user class. Now notice it underlines it in red. It's angry. When we hover, it says there is no parameterless constructor available in user. So we're going to create a constructor matching super. So what happened here? It generated a constructor for us, and notice it's the exact same constructor as user. It takes in a username and an email. It then has this super keyword, and what this does is it basically references user. So this is saying, hey, go up to whatever you're inheriting from and call this constructor. And you can tell because if I hold the command key, or control if you're on Windows, and hover, if I click it, it brings my cursor right to this constructor so I can see exactly what it's referencing. Now premium user should have one more field, so I'm going to go ahead and say private string credit card. And then we do need to pass this into the constructor. So we're going to go ahead and hit comma, and then string credit card. And then this dot credit card is equal to credit card. Now we're going to go ahead and generate all of our code. So generate, getter and setter, and then generate toString. Notice we only have getters and setters for our credit card. All of the other getters and setters for getUsername apply to this class. So let's see that in action. I'm going to do user is equal to new user. And I'll pass in user1 name and user1 email. Then I'm going to do premium user is equal to new premium user. I'm going to say user2 name, user2 email, and then user2 credit card. I'm just passing in some crap data so we can see what happens. When I come down here, I can do user, and then I can do get username and get email. This should make sense because user only has 2 fields. But if I do premium user and I do get, I can get email, I can get username, and I can get credit card. So the premium user has that extra functionality that we built in, but by default, it automatically got the functionality of the user. Okay, let's review. Extends is the keyword for Java inheritance. We have a user and a premium user. In this case, the user is the superclass or the parent class. The premium user is the subclass or the child class. A parent can have multiple children, so premium user could extend user and admin user could extend user. You could even have a complex tree of inheritance, something like this. But a child cannot have multiple parents. So a premium user cannot inherit from user and admin user. This is against the rules. This is due to something called the diamond problem. Basically, this was a problem in C++, and this is how Java solved it. There's going to be a question on your homework on looking up the diamond problem and what it is. It's not that relevant, but it's kind of a good to know. Now, there is an issue that arises with inheritance. So what if we want premium user to act differently than user? For example, let's have a method that says getMessage. And this message returns thanks for being a premium user or LOL you're broke, depending on what type of user it is. So we can do this by overriding the method. Let's see an example. Okay, so in our user.java class, I'm going to go ahead and add a new method. Public string getMessage. And for our user, we want to return LOL you're broke. So let's go back to main.java. I'm going to go ahead and call user.getMessage, and then I'm going to call premium user.getMessage. So in both cases, it printed out, LOL, you're broke. Well, obviously, if you're a premium user, we want to say nice things to them. So how do we do this? I'm going to go ahead and copy the getMessage method from user.java, and I'm going to paste it over here in premium user. And I'm going to change this from LOL, you're broke to nice bro, you're rich. I'm then going to rerun my program. And of course, we get the correct thing. So technically, you do not need the @override annotation. However, you should still include it. So if I copy and paste this up here, I am now calling the override annotation. When I run it, I get the same result, and I'll explain why in just a second. Okay, so what just happened? A user had a method called getMessage, and premium user automatically inherited its functionality, as you would expect. But we want premium user to do something different. So we create a new method that is identical, meaning the same name of the method, the same return type, the same parameters, but it's going to give a different result. This is called polymorphism. It's another principle of object-oriented programming. We'll look at this in just a second. Why did we need the override keyword? Technically, you didn't. If your method is identical, you don't need the override keyword, but it's good practice to include it. This tells other developers, hey, this is overriding a superclass method. And then Java also does some extra compile time checks to help you out. So let's say you mess something up and you get the name of your method wrong. If you include the override annotation, Java will throw a compile time error saying, bro, I thought you were supposed to override this, but I don't see anything that you're overriding. This is a good thing. It helps you figure things out before you even run your program. So what is polymorphism? It means many forms. And all it means is a single method can return different results depending on context. So when you see the override annotation, that basically means polymorphism. There are 4 principles of object-oriented programming. We already covered encapsulation, that's basically your getters and setters. We just covered inheritance today. This is where you reuse code and have a good design. And now we just covered polymorphism, which is basically the override annotation, different behavior depending on context. And there's one more principle. We're going to cover this in a future video. Okay, and just FYI, there is one more thing to think about. So look at this line of code. User is equal to new premium user. You have the parent, but you're creating a new instance of the child. So this is legitimate code. It's called upcasting or downcasting, depending on which way you're going. It's another way to do polymorphism, and I'm just telling you right now, you are not ready to understand this. This is something you run into when you're managing a project for over 5 years and you keep making changes, and you don't want to be forced to refactor your code every time you make a change. This is really high level, and I don't recommend jumping into this right now. Go code for a couple of years, and then once you refactor a project 5 years later, you're going to start realizing, wait a minute, maybe this is a good idea. So just don't worry about it for now, but you should know that it's called upcasting, and you should know that it's possible. And as always, do the homework. Good luck.